Hey guys, welcome into the 14. I'm Nick Cole, and we're breaking down each SEC football bowl game from a betting perspective. Today, we're talking about the Verbo Citrus Bowl. That's the Kentucky Wildcats playing against the Iowa Hawkeyes. This game's going to be played on Saturday, January 1st at 1 p.m. Eastern Time in Camping World Stadium in Orlando, Florida. The television broadcast will be on ABC. From a betting perspective, this game opened with Iowa as a 1.5-point favorite. And as of the recording of this video, that's shifted to Kentucky -3. The over-under for this game opened at 45 and has dropped slightly to 44 as we record this one. I'll bring in our betting analyst, Christopher Smith. Christopher, if we were looking for some good old-fashioned Big Ten football, I think this game might be it, right?
Yeah, we just talked about Arkansas Penn State on another video, which is kicking off an hour earlier, just a few hours west of Orlando and Tampa. That game is going to be the same, not on purpose, if that makes any sense. This game is going to be the way you just described, on purpose, because these teams are trying to do that. So I prefer that, a little bit more skilled than the other game is just going to be that way because the teams' offenses are going to stink. In this game, Iowa and Kentucky both play very physical, sound defense, and it should be a really fun game to watch. But Nick, tell us about the weather, which seems pretty unusual even for Florida in January, as well as who may or may not be playing in this game and next news and notes.
Yeah, sure. So let's start with the weather. You mentioned it. It's going to be a hot one. We are recording this one a couple days out, so you want to make sure you check the forecast the day of just to be sure. But as of right now, we're showing mid to upper 80s with a high of 86 on New Year's Day in Orlando. That is crazy hot, even for Florida, like you said. Something to watch for, though, on this forecast beyond just the heat is the 10 to 15 miles per hour wind that's forecasted. There's a very low chance of rain, so you're not worried about that. But that wind is in that category where we start worrying about the passing game and the kicking game, which could impact the total. So check the wind before you bet this one, especially if you're betting a total. On the injuries / opt-outs / COVID list, obviously that's something that you're going to want to keep an eye on even 30 minutes before the game, because there's just so many things that are moving so quickly in this bowl season. But the list of players that I have to watch for you right now, as of this moment in time, on the Kentucky side, wide receiver Josh Ali and tight end Isaiah Epps are out for this game. And on the Iowa side, running back Tyler Goodson opted out of the game. Cornerback Matt Hankins is out due to injury. And backup cornerback Terry Roberts is not listed on the depth chart any longer. So those are things to watch there. And before we get into the betting analysis from Christopher, I just want to set the stage for both of these teams entering this game. On the Kentucky side, I mean, things are good for Mark Stoops, right? He's received word that quarterback Will Levis is coming back for the 2022 season and will lead Kentucky in this bowl game in an era of opt-outs he's supposed to be playing. And last time we saw him, he was dominating the hated Louisville Cardinals on the way to a 52-21 win in that final game of the regular season. I think he rushed for 4 touchdowns and threw down the upside down L every time in the end zone. I'm sure Wildcats fans love that. With a 10-win game, with 10-win season on the line here, you got to expect you're going to get the best effort from Kentucky with a lot of their key players playing in this game. Again, when we look at bowl games, we in trying to bet on them, a lot of times it's about trying to figure out the want to in the room, and it seems Kentucky's should be pretty high. Kentucky, interestingly enough, is trying to extend their non-conference winning streak to 16 consecutive games, and that's tied for the nation's best number for the longest active streak with no other than Iowa. So somebody's going to move to 17, and somebody's streak is going to be snapped. And then I mentioned it in the opener. You look at the other side of this. Could we get any more stereotypical Big Ten with this Iowa team? I mean, if you truly want to see how the current style of Kentucky and SEC football matches up against the traditional Big Ten football, this is the game for you. Kirk Ferentz has built a team around running the football and playing really good defense. But his team is limited when it comes to passing the ball and scoring points. All 3 of the Hawkeyes' losses this year were one-score performances from the offense. It was a 24-7 loss to Purdue while the team was ranked number 2 in the country, one of the biggest letdowns in program history probably. It was a 27-7 loss at Wisconsin. The next game, 2 weeks later, after they had a bye week to try to figure things out, they still only scored 7 points in their next game. And then they finished the season in the Big Ten championship game with a 42-3 loss against Michigan. So again, trouble scoring points when it matters most. Of course, the signature wins in their 10-win season came against Iowa State and Penn State. Both were considered top 10 teams at the time that Iowa beat them. Both are no longer considered that, obviously, based on the outcomes of their seasons. And then final thing I'll mention before I hand it over to you, Christopher, is the obvious Mark Stoops connection here. He played his college ball along with the rest of the Stoops brothers at Iowa as a defensive back. And while other schools have come calling and he's rebuffed them, and Kentucky's been really good about keeping him and sustaining the success that they've had under him and continuing to give him contract extensions, that's the one spot that probably should worry Kentucky fans. As Kirk Ferentz gets up there in age, he's 66 now. This is a game that Stoops is going to get some exposure to his old program and maybe just a little bit of extra incentive to get to that 10-win mark to beat his alma mater. Christopher, do we factor any of these things into betting this one? I know we've seen the spread move from opening with Iowa as a favorite. Now we're looking at Kentucky as a favorite.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the players that Iowa is going to be missing in this game. I think that has something to do with it, but Iowa's missing some corners and Kentucky's missing some receivers. And if you look at the available players that Kentucky has to throw the ball to, Isaiah Cummings is basically the number 2 receiver in this game, and he's got 13 catches for 182 yards for the season. So Iowa essentially needs to cover one player, and that's Wan'Dale Robinson. And he's been targeted more than 40% of the time when Kentucky throws the ball, which I don't remember seeing that number in a very, very long time in the SEC. Dane Belton and Riley Moss were both first-team All Big Ten selections for Iowa in the defensive backfield. And Iowa has by far a nation-leading 24 interceptions. I think the number 2 team has 21 on one more game than Iowa has played. If you look at the SEC stats for quarterbacks, only Emory Jones has thrown more interceptions than Will Levis. So Robinson is dangerous, and Iowa will be familiar with him, of course, due to his time at Nebraska. But Iowa's very good in the defensive backfield, and the fact that Kentucky has really no other threat whatsoever in the passing game certainly helps Iowa be able to scheme to try to stop Robinson. But Iowa's just as good at defending the run as they are against the pass. And you mentioned, Nick, about Levis, the 4 touchdowns he ran for against Louisville. And Chris Rodriguez had a big game as well. Louisville's 98th against the run in EPA per snap and 94th in yards per carry. This Iowa team is 12th and 9th, respectively, in those stats. So eons better, just a totally different team and match up for Kentucky here. I was also great at field position, and they're used to playing a team like Kentucky, a line of scrimmage and play defense and run the ball type of team. They probably wish it was colder. You know, at 86, if this game gets to 86, it could be 87, could be 88. The field is obviously always a little warmer than the air temperature is. And I'd be kind of curious how, for both of these teams, the weather that they've been practicing in, maybe see some cramps late in this game as we would in an early season game also in September. So interesting to look out for there. But I would double Robinson and then just put everything else I have into stopping the run and dare anybody else other than Robinson to beat me in the passing game. So Iowa's defense is 4th in SP plus, but that Hawkeyes offense is 100th in SP plus and 123rd in EPA per snap. You have to pass the ball against Kentucky defense or they will just eat you up. And you saw that with Tennessee. Hendon Hooker managed almost 16 yards per attempt, which is crazy. 4 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. But I was missing its top running back who almost had 1,200 yards rushing, which you mentioned. And it puts a lot on the shoulders of Spencer Petras, the quarterback at Iowa. Just in case you're wondering how Spencer did the last time that Iowa took the field, he went 9 of 22 for 137 yards against Michigan and has not thrown for more than 200 yards since October 1st, which is not the formula that you want when you're going up against a Kentucky team, which the way to beat the Wildcats is to throw the football. So, Nick, why don't you give our listeners a little bit of a New Year's Eve gift and then let us know where you're betting and where your money is going for this matchup.
Yeah, so bowl season's in full swing, obviously, and Action 24/7 Sportsbook is celebrating with a special offer for new customers. For a limited time only, you can get your deposit matched 100% up to $800. So if you sign up today and make your first deposit using code South14, South14, Action will double your money up to $800. Download the app or visit action247.com to get things started. Action 24/7 is by Tennesseans for Tennesseans. You've got action. And Christopher, I think we've kind of hammered this point home a couple of times already in this video, so I'll be brief on it. But you know, you look at the total on this game at 44, and to me, you try to come up with scenarios where you could see the final score landing in this game, and it seems to me like a 21-14, 21-17, even a 24-20, or 24-17 type of script. All those fall comfortably under 44. So in placing my bet in bowl season, I think if I'm picking one in this game, I think I like the under 44, but I also like the Wildcats -3. I may get a little bit of action on both of those. How do you see this one?
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to get rich betting unders in college football that are in the low 40s or 30s, but I have to agree with you on the under 44. I mean, you threw out some scores. We could see 13-10 in this game or 17-13. And, I think that the matchup is obviously horrible for Iowa's offense, but it's also horrible for Kentucky's defense. And I just think that we've seen Iowa be profitable against the spread in these games on New Year's Day against an SEC team that's sort of defense first. And they usually take the bowl games very, very seriously and care immensely about actually winning the game as opposed to playing for developmental reasons for next season. So for that reason, I'll go with Iowa +3. But again, on this video, I sort of like the total bet more. We both agree on the under there. So for Nick Cole, I'm Christopher Smith for the 14, and we'll talk to you for the other bowl games.